Okay, so are you ready? Are we ready to go? Are we ready? Okay. Hi guys, welcome back. Welcome to the Naked Talk. Today we're going to be talking to Maggie. I can't even keep a straight face. I absolutely adore Maggie. Maggie's fantastic. I went to Maggie for my continual professional development for human family posing for a workshop at Maggie's studio, and I just thought Maggie's one of the best people I think in the entire world, especially to have on something like this, because she just says it how it is. If you could, Maggie, could you explain to everybody who you are, where you come from, and what you do?
So, hi everyone. I started as a photographer. I started as a newborn photographer, then developed into family, babies, kids, bit of everything really. And then I feel like my personal development was starving. So I developed into a trainer and training company. I started with sales training, and that's still the core of my business. So I teach how to sell wall art products, photography products throughout the whole process, throughout the journey from consultation onto the IPS. And recently I've just added a bit of extra diversification into my business and started doing templates, so prep guides for sessions, newborns, family, maternity, and stuff like that. So it's full blown company right now, and I feel like I'm getting a bit bipolar because I can't decide. We had this chat the other day. I can't decide if I'm still a photographer or am I a trainer. Where am I?
Your business itself, if we talk about the photography side of it, when was that successful? What was the turning point for you that you thought, this is a legitimate business? How long ago was that, and what did that look like?
So I started my business about 8 years ago. I know exactly because it's the age of my daughter, because when she was a newborn, we went for a shoot and I thought, this is a lovely job. I could totally do that, but I could probably do it better. So for weeks after that session, I was adamant, this is it. I'm going to do that. So I started. First session was for free. Second session was for free. Third session I charged 120 quid, and I was standing there looking at the cash thinking, someone actually paid me for this. This is easy money. Back in the day. So it's been going really well since I started, because obviously I adjust the prices and so on, but it's always been busy. For photography, probably about 4 years ago was the busiest I've ever been, but it got to the point that it was too much. So I was working literally 7 days a week. You kind of take too much on. You feel you can handle it, but then you forget that there's actually life happening in the background of it all, and you need to run kind of everything simultaneously. So that was a bit too much. So then I decided I need to reduce my working hours to maybe 4 days, 5 days a week. And so pretty much it's always been busy. So it's never been quiet. I would say that, oh my God, I'm going to be closing, because it's nothing's going on. It's always on, full on.
I think
the workaholic side of me will make it happen.
Yeah, I would expect nothing less from you, Maggie. The business itself, in terms of how that started right at the very beginning. So you had the newborn session with your daughter, and then you were like, I could do this. Did you have any training, or have you run a business in the past, or like do you have the knowledge for it, or how did you get to that point where you were like, oh, I can do this, it's going to be easy?
So I was self-employed for pretty much half of my life, doing various things. I started in sales, so a chunk of my life was sales. I was running sales department in Harrods, in Selfridges, in House of Fraser. So sales, I can do sales. I just combined it with photography when I started. So photography for me, it's pretty much the 80-20, but 80% is sales, 20% is, I hope you're kind of good enough to have something to sell, but it's still business first, work second. So photography as a hobby was always in the background somewhere. I'm the person that was always in your face with the camera, and everyone hated me because it's 10,000 photos, and then everyone comes to you because they want the photos. But from technical perspective, I didn't have a clue about camera. So the first session I've ever done, I locked focus in my fat finger, but obviously I didn't want to look unprofessional. So the focus is in bottom left corner, and I have this newborn in front of me. First of all, I don't even know how to pose the newborn at that stage, so I cannot tell people that the focus is wrong. So I kept turning my camera to one side because I didn't know how to fix it. So the face is always in bottom left corner. So technical aspect of camera, I didn't know that probably the first year when I was doing photography. I didn't have a clue what I'm doing. So that was up until I signed up to a course with Raz Jackson. And I thought, oh my God, it's imposter syndrome. Then back then it was really strong. So I'm going to go to this course with all the other photographers, you know, and they all know what they're doing. And I'm going to be sitting there like, yeah, this is all cool, but what's this exposure triangle? So I Googled pretty much everything. I spent 3 days on YouTube learning the technicalities of photography. And I went to this course and turns out they were all winging it. Everyone was winging it. So pretty much everyone was at the same level, knowing nothing. So that almost in a weird way gave me confidence that I can actually do this. Just need to put a bit of work and learn the technical side of it as well as the arty side of it.
So I guess that ties me really nicely in with a question that I haven't pre-formed really any, but one of the questions that I did was, if you are just starting out in business and you don't have any photography training, you do, or real, skill at a high level, and you don't have any sales background, you did, of course, but you don't have that, what's the single most important thing in terms of it's going to make the biggest difference to someone's photography career? What's the single most important thing for someone to know if they start out wanting to do a photography business?
Obviously, with what I do, I would totally tell you that sales and in-person sales. But one thing I would say from the perspective of someone who is starting out is that mental attitude towards business. So you need to figure out your why you're doing this. Is this the hobby, or are you planning on turning into business? Because that's a completely different journey either way. And focus on the client, and don't be focusing on the little things, because when you look at a bigger picture, you move faster in business as well. So if client is the be and end of your business, you make sure that it's all about the client's happy, the client's journey is as smooth, as easy as you physically can make it. If it becomes about you and what you want and how you want it, then it's just going to take long.
When I came to you for
I love the family stuff.
Yeah, family portrait training, you could tell, you were super passionate about it, obviously super knowledgeable, otherwise I wouldn't have been there. And you have this kind of
You just came for the pizza, right?
Yeah, I did, your kind of whole mentality around the shoot was very organized, not in a way that the clients in that situation felt like they were on a production line and had to do XYZ, but it was just organized. Can you talk me through why you have that sort of a process for a shoot? Like, why would you do that? What's the point? Why not just wing it and see what you get?
Oh, because you get nothing when you wing it with family. This is it. So you have different ages, so spectrum of ages. You might have the 7-month-old, and you have expiry time ticking about 40 minutes if they had a nap. You have the teenager that doesn't want to be there in the first place. You have dad that thinks after the 3rd click that you're incompetent. And you have mother who thinks that she's probably fat. So you have this bunch of people that everyone's got their own issues, right? And you put them all together and you're trying to make sure that they all look happy, like they actually wanted to be there. So if you're slow at taking photos, they're all going to melt. I compare shooting family to trying to create a nice sculpture in the middle of Africa. You're on the clock. If you're not fast enough, you'll end up with 5 photos. I strip my galleries to 15. So I shoot for 15 photos for family session. And everyone says, well, you can do 35. I don't want to do 35. I don't want to do 7 head swaps per photo. I want to have 15 really good photos. All of them are different. All of them are different combinations, but it's literally like a clockwork. A lot of people avoid larger families because it's tough, but that's where the experience comes from. I mean, I've shot about 300, 400 families now. I can do it with my eyes closed. But the first time I was shooting, I remember drawing every pose. I had order of things. I had a piece of paper with little stick man, that person's on the floor, that person's standing. And that was about a year of doing it. So you physically need to go through the motions in order to make it easy. It's not easy at the beginning. It's like with everything. But I genuinely love it because when I was little, I used to play Tetris a lot. And this is for me, human Tetris. Like you puzzle people together. I have space for a head. Why don't you turn around? So it's like it's playing like with Lego, just with adults.
And kids and babies and the dog occasionally to just say all going to...
Always dog. You need to bring dog to every session. This is not a family session if there's no dog. I mean, I had a session once when someone walked into the bathroom and there was little puddle in my sink because tortoise needed to be in water in between takes. And I'm like, so I've got this in water, I've got snakes here, and that's one family.
So you start and you're like, I can do the newborn photography stuff, but then you're super passionate about the family portraits. Why is that?
So it starts with the newborn. I'll tell you exactly where it started because I remember like it was yesterday. And I have this IPS and we have this amazing gallery. And I sit there thinking, this is going to make me a millionaire. This is lovely. And my clients say, well, this is all great, but my older son wasn't in the picture. So unfortunately, I cannot create this shrine of this new baby if I haven't got my son in it. Fine. Well, it's not my fault really, but kind of make me feel that if I don't include every single person, that money will never be justified. So even for sessions like cake smashers, sitters, every session for me is a family session. I can call it a sitter, I can call it a cake smash. You will all be there anyway, even for 1-2 pictures. So I'll have a sibling image, I'll have a family image. And then we do the smash and all this crap. But the first few images, that's what's going to end up on wall art. So that's what I shoot for wall art, essentially.
Take notes, everybody, because that's probably one of the best tips you'll have in terms of increasing your sales value and volume if you are a niche photographer.
And you can't be shy as well, because I see a lot of photographers say, would you like to join in a picture? And naturally everyone's going to say no, because we don't, unless we literally perfectly made up. Oh, no, it's all right. It's just a dog, just a baby. I don't do that. Like, you're there. Get your ass in there. And I say it with a smile, but essentially everyone appreciates it because we actually want to be told what to do and we want those photos. And at the end of the day, you don't know how their relationship, for example, if it's a couple with a dog, how their relationship works. Maybe they're really good, maybe they're not so good. So I'll take a picture of them together with the dog, with the family. I'll take separate photos. And I always say, this is your divorce photos. When he pisses you off, when she pisses you off, I don't have to Photoshop you out. And they'll laugh. But remember, 50% of people gets divorced. So it's, it's all happy, but at the same time they want those separate photos as well.
That brings me on to, I guess, personal life, because to be working, you've already mentioned her, you've got a daughter and you have a partner, a husband, I believe. Is that true? You can correct me if I'm wrong on all these things. How how are you managing? You said you work like 80-90 hour weeks, but you have your own family. How is that happening? What's happening there?
Physically, my brain can't be in two places at the same time, and suddenly it's not in the parenting side. So my husband had to pick up a slack on many things. So it's not ideal. If someone can combine it, good luck to them, because I've tried it. This work-life balance is getting better and better. I have to say it's much better than 4 years ago, but it's still not where I want it to be. So there's scope for improvement. But I'm working on it. I'm conscious that this is an issue, essentially, that we have. But there is no shame. I am literally a shameless workaholic. And it's holic because it's an illness. It's not a healthy thing. But it's trying to identify it first, which I did, and then trying to find that balance somewhere wherever you can. I don't work weekends anymore. I don't really work evenings if I can avoid it most of the time, but still it's self-employed. You're on it 24/7. Even if you're in bed, you're thinking. 2 days ago, hand on heart, I'm lying in bed and my husband said to me, stop thinking. I can hear you think. Are you thinking? You're thinking so hard, I can't sleep. What are you thinking about? And all I was thinking about was my call to action on the website wasn't in brand color, and it wasn't doing my nothing at about 2 a.m. So I had to wake up, change the color. This is, it's not healthy, but this is basically how my brain, functions.
Just because you run your life in a different way doesn't mean, in my opinion anyway, that you're a bad parent. That child is healthy, safe. She's fully provided for. She's loved, because she is. Regardless of what you say, I know you love to absolute pieces, and so does your husband. She has all of the opportunities, all of the friendships. She's in a really pretty damn good position.
It's that thing that everyone says it takes a village to bring up a child. We no longer have that village. So back in the day, you're looking at it, families grew up together. So I come from Poland, where you always have your grandparents around, your parents around. We don't really move for work anywhere, so we stay in the same town. There's always someone, that really tight-knit community to look after your kid, to socialize. So you can have a life, have a job, and have a career, and you have that family unit as well. Whereas it's not just I moved to UK. I have no family here. My parents are in Poland. My husband's parents passed away, so we have physically no family around. So that village out of the window unless you have a tight-knit community when it comes to friendships that can potentially, have a sleepover so you can have a break, look after your kids when you need to. You're on your own. Not only you're on your own, you're under so much pressure from social media to be that great parent, so you feel like you're constantly failing. Doesn't matter how well you do, you're constantly failing in your head. Then you look at someone who's the best at business and you feel like, I'm failing at business as well. You look at the highlights of someone's life as a parent because they went to, Disneyland and so on, and you feel like you're failing because you didn't take your kid for, 3 holidays a year. So in your head, you're constantly beating yourself up. It's like, it's this daily occurrence on, in every channel, the parenting, the work, so on. This is not a normal, we don't live a natural, biologically, we're not made for this life. At this pace, we're supposed to have those 8 hours of sleep that no one has, good quality of sleep. Rest, we don't have rest because even if we rest, we're stressed. If you can cut yourself off social media, you will probably be happier for it. But running a business, it almost feels like it's impossible, especially like with training stuff. That aspect of business, I can't cut myself off social media because I want to have my hand on the pulse, and it's just byproduct of this is obviously seeing everyone's highlights. And if you have 1,200 people on your Facebook and everyone posts just one highlight a year, that's already you beating yourself 1,200 times a year that you're not good enough.
And how do you personally manage that whole highlight reel situation on social media? Because you do have to see it every day, and it's not real life. You're not looking into the window of somebody's, real life backstory. It's a lot of it's very cultivated and carefully put together to appear a certain way. How do you personally deal with that mentally?
There's 2 different types of people. Someone who you look at someone who's doing well and you feel the bastard, they probably screw someone over, I hate them. Or the person that looks at someone who's doing well and you think, actually good for them because I know how much effort it's taken to get to where they are. And if you are the latter, it makes it so much easier to actually function in an online world, because if I see someone doing well and they genuinely know they're putting an effort and work and they're helpful to society and they're actually good human, I'm happy for you. I'm not saying that because it's internet, I'm genuinely happy for people who do well. If someone's earning $1 million, great, good for you, because at some point you had to sacrifice something in order to get there, whether it's a family, friendship, something, in order to get there. No one, unless you're born with money. And if you're that kind of person that sees success as a threat, sees competition as a threat, sees someone, someone down the road is selling it for 50 quid, I hate them, as a threat, you will always be bitter, and that's going to destroy you from the inside. And that's worse than any cancer, that's worse than any business problems, because you're going to destroy yourself looking at it. So it's a mind kind of exercise. It's not easy because you can't switch yourself. I'll be happy for everyone today. It doesn't work like that, but it takes some time to get to that level. And if you're conscious of it and you get to that level, it no longer bothers you. Your mind is like a muscle. You need to work on it as well as all the other muscles.
Yeah, 100%. If you see something online and you think, good for them, or great, or well done, or that looked like it was really difficult, then say that. Like, it takes literally seconds to just put a little comment. It doesn't have to be massive. And that will make a really big difference to that person who was doing it. I guess it's external validation, so you shouldn't need that, but it does make a difference. It makes it easier. So I guess I've got a question that I want to ask you, but you might need to think about it because I've not told you it in advance. The question that I want to ask is,
just to clarify, none of the questions you told me in advance, no. Right? Just for anyone who listens.
Yeah,
no. I woke up today in the morning thinking, hold on a minute, what are we talking about today?
There's no preparation for this. We just dive in and go for it. No, I've got a question. It's what is your deepest, darkest secret?
Oh. Oh my God, I don't know. It's like, what is your biggest regret as well? It's one of those questions, like.
It's like, yeah, but then it'll come to you tomorrow night when you're asleep, thinking about something being off-brand colour, and it'll just pop into your head. What's your deep and darkest thought? That could go really dark really quickly. But yeah.
When I watch The Purge, I feel like this is very inspirational sometimes, but yeah.
I'd love to know how you came to the UK.
Do you know those stories that you hear about dad walked out on a family and they said they're going to the shop and they didn't come back for 5 years, right?
Yeah.
So this happened to me.
Oh.
Real life story.
Oh.
So I remember my dad going, I'm going to the shop, and he disappeared for 5 years. So my mom found him in America somewhere. So she called him up in front of me and she said, are you coming back? So it was a massive shock on the phone. And he said, oh, well, yeah, I've got to work here, but I can go. I'm going to London actually in 2 weeks' time. And how is everything? How are the kids? Bear in mind, he hasn't seen us for ages. And mom said, well, really, I can't cope with your daughter because I was the black sheep of the family. I was dating people who were driving motorcycles and they had tattoos, all right? So it was a nightmare for my mom. She thought of like, it's down a hill from there, I quit university. I walked out of university without telling anyone because I was just like, packed it in. And so my mom said to me, well, because you kind of disappeared on us, why don't you look after the black sheep and I'll send you Maggie and I'll take the easy one, at least for a year. So, so that's how I ended up in UK because my mom just couldn't cope with me. And within 2 weeks, I managed to find a boyfriend in UK who's also got tattoos and also drives a motorbike. So everyone was sick and tired of me. And then I had to find somewhere to live. So it was I was thrown at the deep end, straight from the start, pretty much. But I think that actually was always a good thing. You thrive when you're in trouble because you always have to find a way out of situations. So I found a job. I worked as a waitress for about 48 hours. I worked as a cleaner for the whole 3 hours. I had fake nails, hot pants. I walk into this place, I'm thinking, well, this is a bit... It was a pub on Sunday morning after Saturday night, before. And I walked into men's toilet and I stood there and it smelled of piss. And I just literally looked at it and I thought, do you know what? There's more to life than this. This is bullshit. I'm not doing this. So I walked out of that work. So pretty much my first few weeks in UK were kind of, I don't like this job, I don't like this job, and I also don't like this job. So I ended up working in a pub for about 2 years. Well, that was great because I learned English. From pub, I decided to do a finance course. So I went to Zurich to do a finance course and got back to UK, started working in finance companies, all sorts of different things. One of the last jobs I had before I started photography was building a software to back up photos. And I'm not a coder. So there's a bit of everything, but I feel like as a person, I always treated myself as a project. And I felt like if I'm tapped out on something and I've learned everything that I wanted to learn and there's not much scope, I wanted to completely change, to challenge myself to learn something different.
I think I love that. No, I enjoy that little story down memory lane because I never knew any of that. I thought that's so interesting. What is your take in general, Maggie, on Facebook groups? Are they a good place for people to be, or are they not if you are just starting out in business or if you're just a photographer doing it for fun?
It depends on a group. I mean, it helped me. A lot of Facebook groups did help me because sometimes it's the simple things. You shoot at 250 shutter speed and it's all half black and you can't figure out what the problem is. And it's so simple. Sometimes you post in a group and it's that simple fix that you can't get on YouTube or by Googling most of the time.
One of the general themes that I see a lot of is people who are photographers of whatever it is that they're photographing and they're trying to make it into a business, or they just have made it into a business, but they're asking questions where the answer is client communication should have been better. What's your top things that you would say to a new photographer or somebody who's just stopped sort of delving into the business side instead of just being a hobby as their top client communication things to make sure are clear? What would you say those things are?
The thing that makes a difference for me, because I read all those posts and obviously I'm thinking, well, that never happened to me. That never happened to me because this shit doesn't happen to me. But the reason why it doesn't happen to me is because I sit down with that client for about 40 minutes to an hour sometimes it's 15 minutes over Zoom to do that consultation. And the consultation side is that body language. So 55% of your communication, interpersonal communication, is body language. What photographers as group in general, we are all introverts. We hate interactions, all right? That's why we're photographers, because we were thinking 2-second pictures, 2 hours editing. We're going to sit in the corner, drink coffee, in our sweatpants and everything. That's how we imagine photography to be, because we can avoid human interaction. And then They come to my IPS training. I said, well, first thing you need to do is you need to start doing consultation. And it's almost like I brought Satan to church. Like, yeah, consultation. I need to spend 40 minutes with a client face to face. That's intimidating. I'm not going to do this shit. So obviously they skip this. Then they get disappointed because all those posts happen. And I just said, well, have you actually spoken to the client? Do you know why they're coming for a shoot? Because not everyone's motivated to preserve memories. Some people do it for the show. Some people do it for social media content. Some people do things to show off that you can afford a photographer. There's different motivation. And this is why they need to physically sit down. Doesn't matter if you just started photography, you do it for 10 years. You need to know what your client's why is. Because if you don't know the why, how are you going to know the how?
Do you have anything that you think people would be interested to know about you, even if it's people that kind of know you?
Do you know what? Honestly, there's that thing that I see a lot. People take money and they don't care. I have students who are trained 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and they still message me, oh, how would you do this? How would you do that? And I don't cut myself off people who I can help. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying, treat me on tab 3 and message me. I'll probably be awake anyway. But it's just that thing that I will naturally want to know that they've succeeded. If they cross my path and I train them in any way, I want to know that they succeeded. From two perspectives. Obviously, first, because they paid me in the first place, trusting me with their knowledge and their money and their time. So I want to know that I delivered. Second thing, well, damn right, I'm not going to have anyone walking around there complaining about my training. So I want to make sure that they got the value for it. So I do actually care. And everyone who trained with me, you will know I'll give a shit. You ask me anything about any time, I will help you out.
I don't know if you know, I do. So one of our online courses it's like chopped into different, it's a business course and it's chopped into different units. And one of the units is in-person sales from my side of it. But I know that you also do an in-person sales boot camp, which is highly regarded, absolutely fantastic. From that group and from seeing people's answers in your own group, I think our systems are very similar. And I don't want you to go into the system and like how it works and all the ins and outs of it, but I do want you to share, if you can, what that boot camp is, what it is, what are you offering in terms of the sales side of things, because I think it's every photographer's, especially newbies, biggest weakness is sales. So could you just explain what you're offering? Is that okay?
So this most IPS trainings in general will be similar because the principle of it is similar. So Bootcamp has got 7 different modules. So it's who's your ideal client, which is quite generic, obviously, who's your ideal client. But then we always talk about who is not your ideal client and how to get the balls to chop them out of your peripherals, because you need to focus on people who actually pay your bills. And then module 2, how to get your ideal clients. So we get that marketing side of it covered, how to be visible on Google, how to be in front of your clients when they're looking for a photographer. So that's the marketing side. We do pricing, and pricing is one of my favorite subjects ever. I have 17 lessons on pricing alone. Literally, I could just talk about it for days. We talk about products that sell, so we don't need 50 million samples. Everyone thinks like, I need a bit of everything. You don't need a bit of everything. You need the products that sell to your clients, not to every client, to your clients. So we talk about products. And then we've got the IPS room, so the exact wording that I use. I cover consultation in detail, so I give all my students a full list of questions to ask if they ever get stuck. And then we have a module on onboarding and offboarding and client experience as a whole. So it's a full-blown process as opposed to just one channel. And people pick and choose, some people do 2, 3 modules, implement that, and it helps. If they do all 7, obviously, it elevates their business to another level. I do have the resources for photographers. So for anyone who wants to go to togacademy.com, all the resources are there. There's a lot of free ones. So on the homepage, you'll find tons of free resources. There's a lot of paid ones. The paid ones are low ticket prices, like £37 to £99 on average. Super useful stuff. If you want to have templates, if you have on your to-do list, I'm going to write a newborn prep guide or a maternity prep guide, and it's always on your to-do list and you never have the time to do it. I have those pre-written, checked, spell checked, everything. All you need to do is, add your photos and you're ready to roll.
Super. I think I don't know if I could talk to you for days, Maggie, but I don't know if I feel like we might need to have you back, because I think people will potentially make a list of questions that they want to ask you. So I think we should probably put like stop. I'm going to pause it. Well, not going to pause it, but you know what I mean. I'm going to stop here, but we will pick it up again. I feel like we're going to have you back. So, if anybody has any questions for Maggie, if you're watching this on the YouTube video, then please put them down in the comments. And what we'll do is we'll collate them all together, and then we'll try and get Maggie back to ask us some more questions about stuff. So, Maggie, do you have anything else that you think people should go ahead and check out? Anything that you'd like to talk about?
I have a few groups. So if you want to have your images butchered by someone who had 2 or 3 beers, there's Brutal Feedback Association group on Facebook. Depending on how much you can take, just let me know from 1 to 10 the abuse that you're willing to take on the chin, and it will be good. Pixels is for obviously for ladies in photography. I do Tog Academy. I have Tog Academy group, which is for anyone. So male, female, hobbyist, professional, Tog Academy. There's a lot of me in that group. So if you can handle me, then definitely join. But yeah, it's bits and bobs of everything. You'll see me online here and there. I do advertise a lot. So if I pop somewhere, do not block me or unfollow because you got bored of my face. Don't report me for spam because I email a lot.
I would just say, like, so everybody who's listening to this, I would 100% follow Maggie in some way, shape, or form because it's just a really fun journey to go alongside Maggie's life and follow it from the outside.
Definitely a journey.
No, I think it's brilliant. Well, thanks so much for your time, Maggie. Honestly, I really appreciate it. And hopefully we
Pleasure.
will catch up and discuss some other bits and pieces soon.